See, I knew I was in the right place when a bunch of you came up to me at Lightbox and said, "Oh my God, I love your videos. Why are you here?"
That's it. That's my intro.
Hey, I'm Amanda. You're watching Swell Entertainment. Today we're talking about Lightbox Expo, which just took place in Pasadena, California. Lightbox Expo 2023, according to their website, is described as the 5th annual event celebrating artists and creators behind our favorite films, animation, games, TV shows, and illustrations, and just took place at the end of October. So Lightbox, I had been hearing about quite a bit because I have a few friends that are artists. One of my friends was going to be vending at Lightbox, and I did know that. However, I did not know that she had actually bought her badge because you have to be approved to get a table at Lightbox in their artist alley. We'll explain that a lot more in a second. And she had yet to be approved, so she just bought her badge so she would have it, basically. And then she got approved, and so she sold her badge. And guess who saw the offer for a $200 badge first? Me. So I bought her badge. But first, let me tell you about our sponsor for today's video so that you can protect all of your online data, Aura. Whether you realize it or not right now, online data brokers could be making a fortune off of your data. That could be anything from your full legal name to your buying habits to your personal phone number to your home address. Now, legally, these data brokers have to remove your information from their data banks if you request it, but they make it incredibly difficult to do so, and that's where Aura comes in to help you. Aura can identify data brokers using your information and submit automatic opt-out requests on your behalf. Let Aura take care of everything for you. Aura is super easy to set up, and you don't need to download a ton of different apps to do a bunch of different functions because Aura does it all in one, like parental controls, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft insurance, and more. And you get it all at one affordable price. We all spend so much time online these days. The last thing you need to be worried about is that your private information is being exposed online and profited off of. Let Aura take care of that for you. Do not let people profit off of your personal data. Go to aura.com/swell to start your 2-week free trial today. Or you can click the link in the description box or the QR code that's been on the screen. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. It was $200 is what I paid her. I believe that was the early admission cost or whatever, but that's what she told me it was. Basically, the complaint this year, and I believe last year as well, according to the lore that I've heard, a lot of lore attached to this event, which is fascinating. Previously, it was $35 a day, and now it's about $75 a day. And then closer to the event, I think it got up to about $85 a day, according to one person that I met there who said that he literally just bought a ticket for $85 at the door for the one day. Price has gone up, and that's not uncommon once events get larger, once they get a little more established. I don't know. I have nothing to compare it to, so I can't really say if that's warranted or not, because I can see fully the value of this event, even as someone who doesn't get value from this event outside of I get pretty art and I get a video. When people were like, well, why are you making a video on this? Because the thing about Lightbox is it's an artist alley, but it's also a lot of pretty job fairy, I would say. This is like the event for recruiters and animation, game art, storyboard animation, all of that. This is like the spot, like Cartoon Network, Netflix, Sony, Blizzard, all of them. They all have booths here and they all have recruiters. There are portfolio reviews, all of that. This is very much an artist focused event. There were also quite a few writers here, but a lot of these things were very artist focused, and there were a variety of different panels, a lot of which were also writer focused, but predominantly it was artist focused. So then you see me and you're like, this is like an industry event. Why are you here? Listen, I would go to a funeral industry event. I would go to a wedding industry event. Okay. I would go to it all. I tried to go to a plastic surgery expo earlier this year and it got canceled because not enough people wanted to go. Okay. And so therefore, really, I'm helping the event economy. I'm kidding. Basically, I heard a lot of people talking about this and a bunch of my friends are artists. And so I was like, you know what, let me go check this out because I can at least tell them whether or not I think it's good for them. That, and also I think that it's good for someone like me to go and review an event like this because no one can say you're just bitter that you didn't get a job out of the event and other people did. I did not go to Lightbox looking for a job. I went for a video and to buy art, okay? Because people kept telling me how insane the artist alley was. And I will say, they were right. It was insane. Day one, I got there right before time started. I got in line probably right at time started. And this is probably the largest event that I've seen taken up the Pasadena Convention Center. I've been to quite a few events at the Pasadena Convention Center. And typically what I see is they use the entirety of the main hall. That's the one to the right when you walk in. There's the side room, a lot of horror conventions there. CatCon was there, all of that. And then not the auditorium itself, but there is a big whole hall behind that where they usually do for like signings and things like that. I usually see that room being utilized as well for a variety of different things, okay, for different cons. This was the first con that I saw use the entirety of the Expo Hall, the entirety of the auditorium, the entirety of that, let's say, demo hall is what they ended up doing it, and the entirety of the third building on the very left, that's a bunch of rooms, okay? Don't ask me details about that because I never made it into one of those rooms.
This is an insane amount of people. Like, I don't even know where the line is, frankly. I think I see it.
First and foremost, my big note is that I think you have outgrown this venue. I think you outgrew it probably last year based on what I was hearing. Sunday was very mellow, which was very good. Normally I would say avoid doing a one-day ticket for the last day because I find that for most conventions that typically when people are sold out of things and things like that, a lot of freebies stop. A lot of the big panels are not on Sunday, so if you want to get the most bang for your buck, I would recommend going on like a Saturday or the first day of an event, not the last day. However, for something like Lightbox, yes, there were quite a few vendors and artists who had sold out of items. I have a few photos of like sold out, see you soon, see you next year, or something like that, or check the website, things like that, which is great. I always love seeing artists saying that they've sold out of things, especially at an event like this where it was literally like no weak booths, not a single weak booth. Okay, at the Artist Alley. We'll talk about that more in a second. But I think that Sunday is a good day to go if you want a more mellow experience because that first day was insane. That second day, also insane. My point with bringing this into a larger venue, one, I think the 3 building situation, especially when you have very minimal security. What is going on with events lately? Post-COVID, it's like, okay, cool. We're not wearing masks anymore. We don't need to do bag checks anymore. I guess that's not a thing anymore. What's a metal detector? Who needs those? That sounds expensive. You're going to charge me $75 a day, at least detect some metal. I still don't have a desk chair. And so I feel like my blood starts pumping when I'm standing. And that's why I'm like moving around so much in videos lately. I'm really antsy. Moving to a bigger venue should be priority number 1. I did hear a few people where it's like, yeah, they definitely needed to move last year, but it sounds like they may have a multi-year contract with the convention center. Pasadena Convention Center is beautiful. It's a good venue for a starter event when utilized correctly. You guys are now on year 5. This was the 5th one. And people kept saying, it's like, oh yeah, it's a new convention. It's a new event, that type of thing, a new expo. And I do know that, a few of those years were during lockdown, and so they were online. However, at a certain point, we have to stop being able to say that we are a new event. I think when you hit year 5, even if 2 of those years were on lockdown, that does still count in part of the passing of time. It's funny. I was explaining this to one of the vendors I was speaking to in the Artist Alley, because she was telling me about how like even pre-lockdown, like a lot of events like Lightbox were not even as busy as Lightbox is now type of thing post-lockdown. And I said, oh, that's funny because that is the same thing that happened with a lot of paranormal conventions that I've been going to, where they are not prepared for the boom of people who were faced with their own mortality and got really into the paranormal and mythology and ghosts and cryptids and all of that. And I guess the same thing goes with art, where a lot of people were like, man, I love art. I want to go to art school. I want to do this. We're all going to die one day. I might as well go to art school. It does not shock me whatsoever, frankly. But chase your passions, whether it's ghosts or animation, okay? I think if you add even 1,000 more tickets to any of the days, I think you're really going to have a problem on your hands. Then once you have enough people in there, again, we've seen it before. It's as simple as one person yelling the wrong thing, making the wrong move, causing a panic, and then we have problems on our hands. And it's just not safe. It's not safe for attendees. It's not safe for the artists. It's not safe for vendors. It's not safe for your staff. You need a bigger venue, I think, if you're going to not cap admissions any further than this year. I was told 15,000. I don't know if that's correct. Okay, that's just what I had been told compared to last year, which I was told was 12,000. Those numbers I don't even think that sounds correct, frankly, for like across 3 days and all of that. LA Convention Center, yes, it's going to be more expensive. However, you're going to have a lot more varieties as far as room sizes. And I think you will be able to fit everything instead of across 3 buildings. You'll be able to fit it into one. And then I think they mandate for the LA Convention Center, I think they mandate using metal detectors for security systems, because I think they have their own one built in. I don't want to say they didn't have security. They just didn't have adequate security for an event, okay? And before anyone says, Amanda, you're always looking at the worst side of things. You're like, what do you mean you need bag checks? We're in California. Most places don't even allow bags anymore. It's a clear bag policy for a reason. That's for speed of security and a variety of things, but also because people are crazy. Someone's like, oh yeah, but this is like an art event. No one's going to come and do anything here. You don't know where they're going to choose to do it. That's kind of the point. So you avoid what you can, you avoid chaos, and it's a safety thing, because who knows? Artists have fans. I'm assuming someone's a crazy person in the artist fandom space. Not that I met anyone who was crazy, but still, you never know. And you'd rather be over prepared and not have to worry about things than not do something and then someone gets hurt. I'm hoping my point is coming across. I'm realizing I look a little bit like a bumblebee.
This is artwork that they've added to the outside of the convention center. That's really cool. Usually they just leave these ones up, but it's like, this is cool.
My friend had been mailed her badge, and so I just had my own lanyard attached to it. They did have lanyards for themselves attached. And basically pretty much everything, as long as you had this out, you could really go anywhere of the convention center. First way you walk in, they immediately lead you into the Expo Hall. I shouldn't even call it an Expo Hall. It was an artist alley with a couple of extra booths in there, but it was very much mostly an artist alley. Now, I will say, for an artist alley's sake, this blows every other artist alley I have ever been in out of the water. I think it may very well ruin it for me for the rest of time, because this was so good. Like I said, there was no weak stands where I was like, why are you vending? Like, what money do you think you're gonna, like, there's usually one. Not the case here. Everyone was incredibly talented. My friend who had a booth there, I don't know. She is not consented to being a part of this video, so that's why I'm not saying her name. But she told me that she had to share her union status with them. She had to share what shows she's worked on. She's had to share like her portfolio as well in order to be approved to get a booth here. So like there are people who have worked on Into the Spider-Verse. There are people who have drawn for Ninja Turtles. There are people who have been, in the industry for years, and then people who are just at a bunch of different artist alleys. So they maybe don't work in animation, but they are very well known as far as the artist sphere go. And so they were invited or invited back. I was told that this year, this is one of the first or second years that they are trying to alternate who is in the artist alley so that there's no repetition. So for example, I talked to one viewer who was a vendor last year and she applied again this year, and they said, no, we're going to not have you vend this year, but you can reapply next year. And they were doing that to try and get more variety so that there wasn't a lot of repetition in the artist alley. And I think that was very good, because I just experienced this at TwitchCon where I felt like there was almost a copy and paste of the same artist alley from last year. And so to add a variety like this as well, but also to alternate people in. So I was told that it typically used to be that like if someone stopped wanting to vend, then you could vend. But now that they are allowing more of a rotation, that's great for a lot of new artists. My friend, it was her first time vending. So it's a lot of things like, I think that's great. I think a rolling lineup for the artist alley, I think is a great initiative. I also very much was excited to come to Lightbox, because my friend told me that they had made a hard stance against AI art. They said that if you were caught selling AI art, you would be banned for life from the artist alley. And not even just that, there were a variety of panels for artists about what to do if your art was used to train AI, what you could do legally, how to, avoid, your art being stolen for AI and things like that. How to spot AI artwork, I believe, is one of them. I did not manage to make it into any of these panels. Again, we're going to talk about the panel situation in a second, but that was nice to see on the lineup, because pretty much every other event that I've been to has not taken a hard stance against AI whatsoever. So that was great for me from someone's perspective who is not an artist, but has a lot of respect for artists. I thought that was great. A couple of people were selling like create, don't prompt art and buttons, some, things like that was really popular, mainly because I'm sick and tired of hearing about how AI is the future. Leave me alone. God. I'm just saying, I don't think AI could make a video this spastic. So the panel situation, I tried to walk through a couple of different things. Only panel I actually managed to make it into was James and DJ's panel. And typically, if there's a YouTuber doing a panel at something, I try and go and support because YouTubers. There was a few where it's like, I want to go to this one, but I can't make it in because of X, Y, and Z. There was a lot of panels on the first day that I wanted to make it into, but I was stuck in line when the panels were happening. I get you have such a large lineup, so you kind of have to have like a first thing in the morning panel, you know, first time at start. But with how long it takes to get in, I don't know. I would stagger those a little bit more, maybe. Like even just like a 30-minute buffer time I think would be good, especially with the ticket system. Obviously, I have no idea if they did the ticket system for those ones because I was stuck in line. But basically, the ticket system was a bit of a mess. Now, again, I bought this from someone secondhand. I never got an email from Lightbox. I did download the app, so I have no idea how much they advertised like this is the system that we're doing. I was told they did a similar system last year, but it was very like last minute and it was not done well. This was done better, but still. Basically, to go to a panel, starting 15 minutes after the previous panel, you could go up and get a card that would say what room it was and what day it was and what time slot it was. That's not your spot in line. That's just a way for you to get into the panel. In some instances, you are lining up multiple times because you are lining up to get the ticket and then you are lining up to get into the panel. Apparently for this panel, you know, expanding your brand past art, DJ was talking as someone who had started in the industry and then moved on to YouTube, and James was talking as someone who started on YouTube and has moved out into traditional industry for animation.
I just went to James and DJ's panel. This now line is for, I think, the House Moving Castle panel. It's insane, the amount of people. It's crazy.
Apparently afterwards was going to be a House Moving Castle panel, I believe. And so they said, hey guys, if you are waiting for that panel, make sure you do not go inside for this panel, because then you won't be able to get your ticket for the next panel. And we don't want anyone walking out 15 minutes into this talk. So there were people who had been in line before I had even gotten there who were like, oh no, I don't want to go inside, because they were there for the next panel. Ridiculous. And then when it came time, I waited like literally like an hour and a half-ish. I had some of the worst pizza of my life. Okay. I don't know. That was bad, even by convention standards. I posted a photo of it to Instagram. I was getting comments like, is that even edible? Like, why are you, don't eat that. Stop. Like it was aggressively bad. So it's like an hour and a half to get into this panel, essentially, for how long I waited in total. And the panel was great. It was good. There was a funny moment where James had put a slide in their presentation about, you know, you always have the option of NFTs, AI, or just stealing people's work as like a joke. And then he's like, yeah, no one take a photo of me going like this up next to it. And then later on, the question panel was coming up. DJ was like, yeah, make sure you talk loudly so that the recording can pick it up. And James realized that the whole thing was being recorded. And so his whole don't take a photo of this bit was kind of wasted, but it was funny. It was a funny moment. But that was really the only one I could get in because like it was such a commitment to go to a panel. You literally were having a double line system that was just kind of causing even more crowding. And in California, the fire marshal is very on top of that. So I don't know how that's going to work, again, if you sell any more tickets. And some of those rooms needed to be bigger. It might be time for a move, you guys. If you're not locked into a multi-year contract with the Pasadena Convention Center, which I don't know why you would be. I would hope you're not, unless they offered you a discount. Typically, you're not. I feel like everyone thinks multi-year deals are very common in convention centers. They really aren't. Typically, because like, what if the attendees are psychopaths? There's a variety of reasons of why venues don't want to do that. So I went through the recruiter hall. I never got in line for anything, and I never spoke to anyone in that room. And that was entirely intentional. That was entirely my choice, because again, I was not here looking for a job. A lot of these people that were there were looking for jobs. I did not want to take anyone's spot at all, okay? So I just walked around that room quite a bit. I talked to a couple of the drawing tablets. Side note, did you guys know that there's like 50 different drawing tablets? I fully thought there was one or two. And then I also thought that we all just had iPads now. Like I'm going to be honest, I was a little out of touch on that one. There's a lot of different drawing tablets in there. That room was also very hard to move in at a lot of times. They put Netflix and Sony right next to each other. Not a good idea. Cartoon Network, every time I walked by there, they were out to lunch, but I do think they were there at certain times. The phrase I heard quite a bit was, so we're not hiring right now. When I was walking through there, I was hearing that quite a lot. The thing with animation right now is it's not looking great as an industry goes. And so for a lot of people that I met here, whether they knew who I was prior to this or not, This was, for a lot of them, they felt their one opportunity for a job. It's looking grim, Cartoon Network essentially still exists, but sort of not. I believe Netflix just laid off a lot of their animation and canceled a lot of their shows. They had a lot of options where they, on a lot of people's spots, because you had to apply to do portfolio reviews with these different companies, was my understanding. And those filled up. And then they had a few places where they were like, hey, we're doing walk-ups, where you can do a walk-up, sign up your name. Those would book up immediately. Those were very few and far between. Not everyone did those, where you could get portfolio reviews. There were also portfolio reviews that I heard were randomly assigned to some degree. I spoke to someone who was a storyboard artist, storyboard animator. They had been paired with a video game developer or a video game concept artist, I believe. Obviously, two very different fields of art and animation and the like. And so, yes, that was not going to work out as far as a portfolio review goes. That's kind of useless. And so I guess that came down to the type of animators and artists there versus the amount of the type of person who could do a proper portfolio review. I did hear from quite a few of the vendors that were in the Expo Hall that I spoke to who happened to recognize me, that they were experiencing quite a few people that were like, oh my gosh, you're a 2D animator. I want to be a 2D animator. I couldn't get paired with anyone who's a 2D animator for a portfolio review. Can you do a portfolio review right now? Which some people were very happy to do. For other people, it's like they're trying to make money. They're trying to sell their art. That's not really fair on the artists in that spot. No one was bothered by that. It was more clearly something needs to shift if they're coming to the people in the artist alley versus people that they believe are qualified for whatever reason. So basically, Lightbox exists because of another event called CTN. I have never been to CTN, and the only CTN lore that I know is from this one. Basically, CTN was the big event like this, okay? And Lightbox was the counter event in response to that. This was going to be CTN without the lines, without the crowding, with more artists and the like. And now it's basically become what it set out to not be. This ever-fulfilling prophecy of, what is the popular one? What is the cool one? What is the one that is actually leading to jobs, potentially? And I was told that CTN was allegedly very empty and sad this last time it happened. Lightbox is now obviously gigantic and overgrown at this point. I think Lightbox, if you want to prevent CTN from swooping you, you need a bigger venue. I was told by people that worked on staff that they were, it was a very laid back job. Cool, fine. And I will note, they were wearing, I believe they called them bumblebees. This was not intentional to that, but they had bright yellow shirts on while walking the floors, which is great. That's wonderful. I always am a fan of security and or organizers wearing very identifiable shirts versus whatever they're choosing to wear, and then a lanyard and a walkie-talkie. Okay, I always think identifiable is the way to go for emergencies. That being said, there were times where I could tell that there was next to no one out on the floor because I could easily spot you, and I could definitely see you were not there. So that's kind of a problem, I think. I think a lot of volunteers would be great. A lot more volunteers in the future. There were a lot of volunteers. I think there could be more, just because, especially with you guys raising prices, I'm sure a lot of students would love the opportunity to volunteer if it meant they could go and talk to a recruiter or two. Oh gosh, the demo hall. I totally forgot about this part. The demo hall was laughable, and I think every artist in there should be mad. The demo hall was in the hall where they usually have signings, maybe a photo op or what have you for other events. And the footage is so funny. You walk in, they had portfolio reviews to my right, a little to my left. And then you had 4 curtains hung up to divide the room into 4 parts. And then all the artists are on tables with a screen projecting of what they're doing behind them. And they're doing literal demos of different art styles, in some instances, different digital art mediums, things like that. Everyone has a microphone. Not all of the microphones are at the same level, and they're all talking at different volumes. I would be pissed if I was any one of them. There weren't enough chairs in there, but that being said, I know quite a few artists do prefer to sit on the floor versus in a chair, especially in a setting like this where they have to do art and they need to get comfortable. So the chair setting, there was not enough chairs in most of the demos that I walked into. But that being said, I think that that's just kind of fine. The issue is the space. you cannot have speakers pointing at each other, because then everyone who is hearing is the people right up at the front. When you have this massive demo space, they can't hear fully. They're trying to go in off of what's on the screen and things like that, but they're still farther back. So I just think you guys got to revamp how you do the demo space, because that was laughably not working out. I don't know. Is that the first year you guys have done this? I couldn't get a solid answer on whether that was the first year or not. Please get a better venue for that. Thank you.
Way less people today. This is much more manageable. I feel less like I'm going to have a panic attack. This is good.
All in all, I think this is incredibly valuable. I have not spoken to anyone who got jobs, but what a lot of people that I spoke to were looking for was just some form of guidance on like really how to either start their portfolio's, because there was a lot of students there, or, you know, like what should they be working on basically, which I think is also incredibly valuable. Even if you're not especially ready to go into the workforce right away in animation or in art, you know, having a direction I think is very invaluable in any field, let alone one where your work is what's going to get you hired. Yes, words. Will I go again next year? I mean, I don't know. If you guys are going to alter out that artist alley, I might have to. But I mean, probably not, just because, again, the nature of not wanting to take up space. $75 a day is a lot. I'm not going to pretend it's not, especially for a student thing. However, it was my understanding that a lot of schools paid for tickets. A lot of alumni paid for tickets for students and things like that. There was a lot of different colleges in the area. I've met people who had traveled from all over the country for different art schools to come out. So I think there is a plastic thing that's shining on my face. That's wonderful. I do think that this could be invaluable, even if, you know, the state of animation is not super optimistic right now. I would go again. I don't know if I will go again, but like I said, this definitely has ruined all other artist alleys for me. That's going to be it. Have you ever heard of Lightbox? Have you been to Lightbox? Would you disagree with everything I said about Lightbox? Were you someone that came up to me and said, I like your videos, but what are you doing here? Like, let me know. Comment down below. Reminder, I have a podcast, the Swell Shenanigans Podcast. Reminder, Swell Entertainment is now on Spotify. Reminder, I am now streaming on Twitch. Reminder, I have merch. Shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. If you also support my Patreon, then listen down below. Like, follow me on social media. That'll be up here. And that's me. Have a lovely day. Goodbye. I do very much like these little jewel guys. They had giant ones with light up eyes outside the convention hall. Those are fun. Amy, Andrew, Alan, Awful, Aslan, BJ, Cameron, Christopher, Chris, Crispy, Crispy, Crash, China, Corey, Daniela, 31, Don, Donnie, Elliot, Evan, Eric, Eal, Ghostly, Hopeless, Homer, Incognito, Jasmine, Joe, John M, Jordan, Joseph, Justin, Kenny, Kim, Kristen, Lauren, Lamb, Lex, Lise, Luis, Mae West, Madeline, Matt, Matthew, Medic, Meme Lord, Michael, Michael J, Michael T, Micah, Nathaniel, Pat, Penn, Pink, Philip, Richard, Rob, Rosie, Red, Robert, Ross, Ryan, Sam, Serena, Skylar, Simon, Tasha, Timothy, Heavenly Plastic, Tyler, Tenzin, Tom, Thomas, QWERTY, Victor, Randy, Winter, Wendy, Will, William, Zendry, Zwink.